It's time to put an end to the most alluring eating-related science myths, misconceptions, and inaccuracies passed down through the ages. To help the cause, we've rounded up and corrected dozens of the most shocking food facts. Before we begin, subscribe to our channel and make sure to give us a like. So let's get started. Myth 1: there are bugs in your strawberry Frappuccino. This one is no longer true. Before April 2012, Starbucks Strawberry Frappuccino contained a dye made from the ground-up bodies of thousands of tiny insects, called cochineal bugs. Farmers in South and Central America make a living harvesting and smashing the bugs that go into the dye. Their crushed bodies produce a deep red ink that is used as a natural food coloring, which was called cochineal red but is now called carmine color. Starbucks stopped using carmine color in their strawberry Frappuccinos in 2012. But the dye is still used in thousands of other food products, from Nerds candies to grapefruit juice. Not to mention cosmetics, like lovely shades of red lipstick. Myth 2: coffee stunts your growth. Most research finds no correlation between caffeine consumption and bone growth in kids. In adults, researchers have seen that increased caffeine consumption can very slightly limit calcium absorption, but the impact is so small that a tablespoon of milk will more than adequately offset the effects of a cup of coffee. Advertising seems to be largely responsible for this myth. Cereal manufacturer named CW Post was trying to market a morning beverage called Postum as an alternative to coffee, so he ran ads on the evils of Americans' favorite hot beverage, calling it a nerve poison that should never be served to children. Myth 3: sugar and chocolates are aphrodisiacs. In the mid-19th century, before sugar purportedly caused diabetes or hyperactivity, sugar was thought to ignite sexual desire in women, children, and, more controversially, the poor. One vintage Kellogg advertisement even claimed candies, spices, cinnamon, cloves, peppermint, and all strong essences powerfully excited the genital organs and lead to the solitary vice. So don't get worked up over sugar. There's little to no evidence to support the notion that it, or any food, including chocolates, stimulates sexual desire. Myth 4: an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Apples are packed with vitamin C and fiber, both of which are important to long-term health, but they aren't all you need. And if certain viruses or bacteria get into your system, an apple will unfortunately do nothing to protect you. Go ahead and get that flu shot, even if you eat apples. Myth 5: eating food within 5 seconds of dropping it on the floor is safe. It's the worst when something you really wanted to eat falls on the floor. But if you grab it in 5 seconds, it's okay, right? The 5-second rule isn't a real thing. Bacteria can contaminate a food within milliseconds. Myth-busting tests show that moist foods attract more bacteria than dry foods, but there's no safe duration. Instead, safety depends on how clean the surface you drop the food on is. Whether you eat it or not after that is up to you, but if the people that walk on that floor are also walking around New York City, for example, we wouldn't recommend it. Myth 6: milk does a body good. This is an incredibly successful bit of advertising that has wormed its way into our brains and policies to make milk seem magical. The U.S. Department of Agriculture tells us that adults should drink 3 cups of milk a day, mostly for calcium and vitamin D. However, multiple studies show that there isn't an association between drinking more milk, or taking calcium and vitamin D supplements, and having fewer bone fractures. Some studies have even shown an association with higher overall mortality, and while that doesn't mean that milk consumption itself was responsible, it's certainly not an endorsement. Myth 7: you need to wait an hour after eating to swim or you can cramp and drown. The theory behind this seems to be that digesting food will draw blood to your stomach, meaning that less blood is available for your muscles, making them more likely to cramp. But there's no evidence to support this claim. In fact, many sources say there are no documented cases of anyone ever drowning because they've had a cramp related to swimming with a full stomach. Cramps do happen frequently when swimming, but they aren't caused by what's in your stomach. If you do get one, the best policy is to float for a minute and let it pass. Myth 8: a juice cleanse will detoxify you after an eating binge. Your body naturally removes harmful chemicals through the liver, kidneys, and gastrointestinal tract. There's nothing about juice that will hurry that process along. Juicing mainly just removes digestion-aiding fiber from fruits and vegetables. Also consider that many sugary fruit juices are as bad for you as sodas. And while some juices are just fine, they don't provide anything that you wouldn't get by eating the whole components instead. Myth 9, organic food is pesticide-free and more nutritious. Organic food isn't free of pesticides and it isn't necessarily better for you. Farmers who grow organic produce are permitted to use chemicals that are naturally derived, and in some cases are actually worse for the environment than their synthetic counterparts. However, pesticide levels on both organic and non-organic foods are so low that they aren't of concern for consumption, according to the USDA. Eating organic food also doesn't come with any nutritional benefits over non-organic food, according to a review of 98,727 potentially relevant studies. Myth 10, sugar causes hyperactivity in children. Numerous scientific studies have tried and failed to find any evidence that supports this off-the-wall notion. The myth probably emerged in 1974, when Dr. William Crook wrote a letter to the American Academy of Pediatrics, which published it. Only in the past 3 years have I become aware that sugar is a leading cause of hyperactivity, the letter stated. A letter does not include the rigorous scientific research that a paper does, and according to the National Institute of Mental Health, the idea that refined sugar causes ADHD or makes symptoms worse is popular, but more research discounts this theory than supports it.